It has been a long day, a long week. It's been a long month. But I'm ready to talk game trailers if you are, because this is what's happening at the tavern. Hey, this is the second take on this because I recorded this with my headphones on for some reason. And it's been that long a day that I didn't actually look at myself, and I'm right in front of me here. I'm looking at the picture of me, and I didn't think, why do I have headphones on? Because I'm not listening to anything. But there you go. That's the kind of day it is. That's the kind of day it's been. What I wanted to talk about today is I wanted to talk briefly about game trailers because we shared some news recently celebrating a win with friend of the tavern, Gemma Laurelle, having worked on Horus Heresy Legion's expansion Titan Death. She worked on the trailer for that. And also worked recently on EVE Online's Rain Quadrant 1, I believe, if I've got the words in the right order. The release trailer for that as well. And it got me thinking about game trailers. I'll talk a little bit in a second about sort of some recent work that's come through the tavern as well. But that was the thing that really prompted the discussion because game trailers, I think, are a really interesting thing. So let's talk about them first, just in terms of what they do for a game before talking about voiceover, because obviously I'm pretty biased about the role of voiceover in game trailers. But discovery has been a problem for a long time for games. It's been a problem for a very long time on Steam. Arguably, I would say that the Gold Rush era on the Switch has been and gone. Similarly, on the Apple App Store, discovery has been a problem for a long time. On the Epic Game Store, I think the tools, the actual sort of the way that store is working is still in its infancy, and so we haven't really seen a good solution there for discovery yet. Although the free games like Epic's support for indie developers in saying, do you want this game for free, I think is a really good one, especially when they foot the bill, as I understand it, for those free games as well as their discounts. I mean, that's definitely one thing. But on console as well, since the death of Xbox Arcade, there hasn't really been a solid discovery solution there. So it's really hard for folks to find out about your game. And I know that that's nothing new to game developers. That's the kind of thing that keeps folks up at night, from the point that they start developing their game. How are people going to find this? How are people going to get eyeballs on our game? And a game trailer is one of those assets that can bounce around the web and really work on your behalf without getting too far into what your personal experience, personal opinion of Cyberpunk 2077 might be. Like I said, it's been a long day. I don't think you can argue the case that the trailer or the series of trailers that first announced Cyberpunk 2077 and then kind of were scattered out, I think they were about 4 years apart. Those trailers really lit people's imagination about what the game might be. Definitely set expectations as well, but were really evocative. Personally, let me start that sentence again in English. I never played The Witcher 3. I had my own opinions on what the Witcher franchise was, largely based on reading articles, so it wasn't from first-hand experience, I'll completely admit that. But I had my own opinion of what it might be, but then I ran into a trailer for... it was a launch trailer for Witcher 3. For a long time, I thought it was related to the expansion Hearts of Stone, or it's Blood and Wine. Blood and Wine is the vampire expansion. Spoilers. It's called Blood and Wine. But there's an incredible release trailer for The Witcher 3, which I'll link to, along with a bunch of other stuff for this What's Happening at the Tavern, that explores a really interesting thing. And if you've ever sat in a room with me for more than 5 minutes, it's something I will not shut up about. I think it's a really interesting trailer. And you know what? Given that this is the Tavern, let's go through it for a second. So the link for the trailer is down there. For The Witcher 3. It's a very specific trailer. They all, I would argue, were really evocative, really strong, but this one trailer really got me hooked. So go and watch that trailer and come back. Alrighty, so if you've watched that trailer, or if you're just going to listen to me blather, I really love that trailer because it explored it explored a relationship between characters that, if you're a fan of John Woo's bullet operas like Hard Boiled and The Killer, if you're a fan of movies like Heat, they've also done that as well. It's this idea that in the case of those films, criminal and detective are two sides of a coin, and they have such an intimate relationship that compared to everyone else in their lives, it's only this opposite side that understands them the most. And I found that just so evocative in that trailer, where it was so well written and it's such a beautiful idea. And it really taps into, I think, a core theme of Witcher 3. So it really was doing a great job of informing the player about what the game was about. It's not just about all of the action, although in that trailer you really do get you really do see some great moments with the mutagens. So it shows us a little bit about what the Witcher's about. He uses his own blood as a power. So he turns a weakness into a strength. How cool is that? So it cues you into the world, and it shows you thematically. I would argue it's so strong thematically. Because what we get with the scoring on that, even at the end of the trailer, it's still melancholy. Geralt he's taken the contract, but he's not happy about it. And there was this shared knowledge, that song that Geralt was familiar with, and now I can't remember exactly what kind of vampire it was, because there's a few different kinds of vampire in Witcher 3. It's been a while, but she knew the song, he knew the song, and most of the other people around there, you could go whistling through the countryside and people would be like, "What's that? I don't recognize that song." So it's beautiful. And I think that's a really great example of how a trailer can really bring people into the world of a game. I think that when they're done well, they're such strong pieces of marketing. So when we talk about voiceover with regards to game trailers, and again, huge kudos to Gemma for your recent work. And by no means, it's a small part of Gemma's resume, but yeah, it was great to see those, especially with a game with a pedigree of EVE Online as well. I mean, that's been around for forever, and the developers of that, I think, it's a really interesting company to track in terms of their approach to things. So when you add voiceover to a game trailer, think for a moment if you can harken back to the first time you watched Fellowship of the Ring. That opens on two things. Howard Shore's exquisite score. That is, I would still argue, one of the best. If you're talking high fantasy scores, I think that is up there with Conan the Barbarian. I can't remember who was responsible for that, but it's up there as if not the best, then definitely one of the best high fantasy scores. I think the work that's been done on both Witcher 3, the game score, and in the series is fantastic, but that is a little more low fantasy and certainly a little more stirring and epic. So it opens on Howard Shore's score, and it opens on Cate Blanchett fucking killing it as Galadriel. And again, link down here I talked about this a little bit in a talk called Give Your Game a Voice, which we've shared a little while back. Cate Blanchett's voiceover does so much to cue you into the kind of story that this is going to be. It gives you the status of the character. It tells you that this is a world that is thousands and thousands of years old, that goes through eras of time. It tells you that this information that's been hidden is going to come back to bite people on the bum. It is a really dense way. It's a really condensed way, I should say. It's information rich. It's a really dense way of conveying a lot of information quickly, and in a way that it's not an info dump. It's entertaining. You're being told a story. And so that married with imagery, that married with music, that married with probably not text on the screen a lot of the time, because our brains can typically only process language, auditory or visual. It's really difficult to focus on both. Next time you're driving in a car, if you're hopefully you're driving safely, think about what happens basically if you've got the radio on, or if you're listening to a podcast or something. Think about what happens to your ability to listen to that the minute that you're looking for street names or you're trying to navigate to sort of go in a particular direction. I definitely find that I just blank out anything auditory wise. But yeah, voiceover is such a powerful tool that can really cue people in to what's happening in your game quickly. It can be used, and it doesn't have to be like lathered on. It can be used sparingly, but it can really convey what your game is all about. So I am, surprise, surprise, a huge fan of voiceover and game trailers. And yeah, speaking of that, I did mention I'd get to some of the work that we've done recently as well. And the Tavern was lucky enough, proud enough, fortunate. What's the word we're looking for here? I would say it was an honor to work on the Citizen Sleeper trailer. We helped with casting for that. They were looking for a number of diverse voices, so we were looking for folks of specific ethnicities, of specific gender representation as well. And we were able to help the client find good fits for each of those roles. It's really exciting to see more clients coming out with really strong mandates around this is the kind of voice that we're looking for. I think it's fantastic to see that. And so yeah, we helped on the Citizen Sleeper trailer, doing casting for that and finding the right voices. I also had the privilege of working on the Sons of Forest trailer, which is now out there in the world as well. I need to double check when the release date for that is actually. I played the Forest once I played it for a few streams, and that game scared the heck out of me. That game is not joking around. Like, that game comes for you. It is super scary, but the sound design on it, which is part of why it's super scary, is so good. So it was really great to work with. Kapow Audio on the Sons of the Forest trailer. It was really fun to have a little bit of VO in there. It's a great trailer too. Link down in there for that as well. I'll be able to share some more work with you soon that I've done recently, trailer-wise, but I can't speak about it at the moment because it is out there in NDA land, which is a bit unfortunate. Let's see. There's two other things that I wanted to talk about. One is what's been happening at the Tavern. So we have primarily been working on, if I can get my finger pointing in the right direction, Age of Darkness up there. As my fingers go chrome. Age of Darkness has been taking up a lot of my time, which is fantastic. I've been really enjoying being a small part of such a incredible team. There is again a link down here for a interview that they did recently with the amazing Rhiannon who voices Alice, and it talks a little bit about some of the work that I've been doing on there as well, which is fantastic. So that's one of the things that's been happening. I did manage to sneak in an update to Daily Boost recently, so if you haven't checked out Daily Boost yet, now is a really good time to do it. I love the way it sounds now. Isotope recently, without going too far down a rabbit hole, Isotope recently had a big sale, and they put pretty much everything that they make on the sale as part of a big package. Picked up that, got the loudness tool, and I was able to solve a lot of problems that I had around setting my audio to the recommended level that Alexa wants. So the loudness, basically, of voiceover. If you're doing text-to-speech, it's not an issue because it's going to talk at the volume that your Alexa is set to. But if you create voiceover, that voiceover needs to have a certain volume level set. And so previously, I'd been having some problems getting the audio to that level without it sounding really, really pushed, really squashed. But I'm really happy with how it sounds now. So yeah, that's been probably the other biggest update. There are a few skills that are smaller in complexity, but I'm really excited about, that are going to be coming out soon as well. It's just finding the time to work on them, which is a good problem to have. If my time's taken up with client stuff, that certainly helps provide some financial stability going forward as well. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I recognize that we are at the 15-minute mark here, so this is going into more personal territory. So if you just wanted to listen to me talk about game trailers and talk about what's happening professionally, then I can happily leave you at the 15-minute mark. But yeah, I'll just go on a little bit longer. and talk about why is this the first video in such a long time. Well, this deserves a sip of bourbon. I feel at the moment a little bit reticent to say that things have been tough, knowing folks who have been going through much more. But I know the whole deal about, don't underplay what's happening with you. Just because people have it worse somewhere else doesn't mean that, things aren't tough for you. And I won't lie, it's been a rough period of time. It's been a rough period of time. I kind of hit a bit of a spiral when it comes to my relationship with voiceover. When I started dealing with, when I had really low reserves for dealing with anything outside of everything that was happening. I've mentioned the separation in the past, but I was going through a separation with my long-term partner at the time. I started having to deal with a technical issue that I've never had before when I was recording where my booth was located, which is I had an issue with RFI, which is radio frequency interference. Essentially, I could leave my mic plugged in with no phantom power, and I could just keep recording, and then pretty damn clearly I could just amp up the audio on the recording, and I could hear someone's television or radio. I have no idea what it was. I still don't know. But that completely blindsided me. It ended up costing me a gig, and probably wrong-footed me with a particular client because I could not even hear that it was there to begin with, which was really unfortunate. And so that sort of started a bit of a spiral for me. And then there was the whole issue of moving the booth, because the booth that I have is a Studio Bricks 1, and it requires really 3 people to put it together. I've always gotten a removalist crew of 2 people to help me with it. And that gets complicated when COVID's still a thing. I mean, we didn't have the wave, which is happening now, peaking at the time, but I'd been for months trying to figure out, like, where is the right time? Where is the safe time to be able to do this? And so I'd put off moving the booth for quite some time, not stalling, but just trying to see, are things going to get any better? And our COVID numbers haven't really gotten any better. They've just been staying around sort of pretty consistent 7 to 10,000 cases in Victoria for quite some time. And so that really took a toll on me. And then, excuse me for a moment. And then there was dealing with all of the logistics of outstanding work that I had for an e-learning client. And that's my notes. They've finally decided to slide away. They're like, well, you're not using us anymore, so we're going to disappear. But yeah, there was then there was the outstanding work that I had to somehow make happen for clients, and how was I going to do that? And then there was the money flow that wasn't coming in because I wasn't doing as much VO. And so yeah, I really hit not a low point. Like I definitely wasn't. When I say a spiral, I don't mean that I was in any danger due to my mental health, but it definitely was a real low period. And I think if there's anything in all of this blather that I want to say, it's if you're hitting a point like that yourself at the moment, please afford yourself the luxury of just letting everything that is non-essential go for a while, because I think one of the things that really stuck with me, one of the things that really taxed me, is the cognitive dissonance between this internal mental image of me succeeding, me the way that I always want to be as a voice actor, and where I needed to be in the middle of a pandemic, breaking up from a long-term relationship, dealing with all sorts of logistics. I had to be sensible about what that was costing me. So if you're in a situation where you are finding that you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, that you're feeling low yourself, please afford yourself the luxury of feeling that, and don't feel that, you need to be at your best self looking back to 2019, or fuck, if you want to go back before basically the psychic onslaught of the last stretch of time, 2015. or however far you're going to go back. You know, let yourself be human. Because I've found that when I can do that, when I can just let go of the things that don't matter right now, that it's really helped. It has really helped. That just letting go has allowed me to recover the strength that I've needed to move forward. So I want that for you too. I can't thank my personal trainer enough. Exercise has been throughout all of this. Exercise has been sort of the one bar that I've been holding to. Those endorphins that I get from that, and, you know, feeling sort of the personal transformation. I'm not super happy about where I am with my body weight wise at the moment, but strength wise, I am really happy. And the things that I'm doing couldn't have done 10 years ago. So I'm really happy about that. And my personal trainer is incredible, and he was the one who set me homework to go and get a mental health plan. And I've done that. And so I'm sort of starting to not face up to a bunch of things. It's not a matter of evasion, but I think really starting to do a bit of housework about myself. And taking care of me. I think that's probably the best way I can frame it. And I'm not trying to be glib there either. I really had to think for a moment to land on that. But yeah, taking care of me. And that's paying dividends. That's paying real dividends. So, you know, if you feel that you need to do that, if you feel that, you know, you're getting to a point where you need to look after you, we look back through time. It's not just the last 2 years. It's not just the last 2.5. The last stretch of time has been a lot. So afford yourself the luxury of being human and vulnerable and taking care of yourself as well. I'm going on holidays next week. I cannot tell you the last time that I took a holiday. I really can't. It is not in memory up here. Couldn't tell you. But I'm taking a holiday for me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying at home. I cannot wait. I could not be happier. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got a list of things I might like to do, but yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing for the next week. I'm going to let everything go. I've put clear boundaries in place for clients. I've said, look, you know, I'm unavailable for this stretch of time, because I've learned from the people around me who do that as well. And I've felt that at the moment I need to be always on. But I've worked with people who you know, have chimed in and said, oh, just to let you know. It's my partner downstairs. I've worked with people who've let me know. Like, oh, look, just to let you know, I'm not going to be around this week. And I've realized, oh yeah, that's right. You can do that as a human being. You don't have to be always on just because, you know, we're in kind of this perpetual like carrier signal of a world that we're in. So yeah, that's why it's been a while since I've put together a video. Work has still been happening. I've still been getting things done, but the capacity for everything else hasn't been there. But I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm really excited about the future, and I feel like I needed to go through that stretch of time to be ready for what's coming next, and I'm really excited about where I'm headed. I'm really excited about bringing together all of the parts of me, all of the power that I've been surrendering or hiding from myself, and seeing what I achieve next. So thank you for taking the time to listen to that. I know that this has been a really long video. You know, I'm trying to make up, I guess, for there being such a big break by just putting it all in one video. But yeah, that's where I've been. So take care of yourself out there. Stay safe, stay well. Life is still a lot at the moment. All right, this has been What's Happening at the Tavern. I will see you again soon.